Some mornings, the alarm goes off, and before your feet ever hit the floor, your heart is already heavy. You lie there with your eyes open, but your soul feels buried beneath invisible expectations. There's no tragedy, no crisis, just a quiet weight that lingers, the kind that whispers, "You're already behind." And suddenly, you're scrolling through your day before it even starts planning, anticipating, bracing. You move from your bed, to your phone, to the kitchen, to the chaos, all while silently holding together the image of being strong, capable, in control. You pour coffee with a clenched jaw. You answer texts with forced optimism. You smile, nod, and show up. But inside, you're carrying the pressure to prove yourself, to be enough, to get it all right today. And maybe you don't even know where that pressure came from. It just showed up and settled in like it belonged. What if it doesn't? What if God never asked you to carry all that? What if He isn't measuring your worth by your performance, your pace, or your perfection? Somewhere along the line, we picked up the lie that being faithful means being flawless, that if we just plan better, pray harder, and try more, we'll finally feel peace. But what if peace doesn't come from holding it all together? What if it comes from laying it all down? God never asked you to be the hero of your own story. He asked you to be His, and that means you don't have to hustle your way into His grace. You don't have to wake up already performing for love that's already been freely given. So what if today, before you reach for your to-do list, you reached for truth instead? What if today wasn't about being stronger, but softer? Is it not about trying harder, but trusting deeper? What if this morning, instead of preparing to perform, you simply paused long enough to ask, "God, what are you carrying for me that I keep trying to carry alone?" Maybe that question changes everything. Maybe it leads you back to a kind of peace that doesn't demand effort, just surrender. Have you ever watched the sky before a storm? The clouds don't rush, they don't panic or push to get into position. They simply gather slowly, silently, confidently. They move with a rhythm that is unhurried and sure, as if they know the timing has already been written. Or take the trees. They never force their leaves to bloom faster, nor do they grieve when the branches go bare. They yield to the seasons with grace. They know when to rest, when to grow, and when to let go. Creation lives in full trust of the unseen hand that holds the calendar. It's astonishing, really. The wind doesn't strive to be more than wind. The ocean doesn't panic when the tide pulls back. Mountains don't question their stillness. Everything in creation exists within its limits and flourishes within them. There is no anxiety in a field of wildflowers, no insecurity in the way the stars shine. Each was created with intentionality and placed with purpose, not because they achieved something, but because God called them good. And yet here we are, rushing, forcing, proving. We measure our days in checklists and our worth by our pace. We assume if we pause, we'll fall behind. If we slow down, we'll be forgotten. But look at the way God designed the world. Cycles of rest are built into everything He created. Sabbath was not a suggestion. It was a pattern written into the universe. So why do we fight what creation welcomes? If clouds can wait to form, if trees can wait to bloom, if oceans can wait for the moon's signal, why can't we trust God with our timing too? Maybe the problem isn't that God is late. Maybe the problem is that we stopped trusting the pace of grace. Maybe we forgot that faithfulness isn't found in constant motion. It's found in quiet obedience. What if waiting well is part of worship? What if rest is the rhythm that leads us back to the voice that spoke us into being? Creation isn't worried, and neither should we be. There's a verse you may have read before, but perhaps never let settle into your bones. Zephaniah 3:17 says, "The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love, he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. Let that sink in. God, the creator of galaxies, the King of heavens, sings over you. He doesn't wait for you to perform. He isn't impressed by your to-do list, your salary, your social media following, or the status of your relationships. He isn't checking your credentials. He's looking at your heart. And even when it feels tired, messy, confused, or ashamed, he calls it worthy of his song. Somewhere along the way, many of us confused identity with image. We began to believe that we are what we do, that our worth is measured in productivity results, and how well we manage to keep everything looking fine. But that's not how God sees you. He sees through the filters, the hustle, the polished version you present to the world. And what he sees is someone he delights in, not tolerates, not puts up with, delights in. You are not your job title. You are not the opinions of others. You are not the size of your bank account, the number on your scale, or the highlight reel on your feed. You are not your worst day or your best one. You are someone God rejoices over. That truth should rewire the way you move through today. You don't have to hustle to earn love that's already yours. You don't have to prove a thing to be held in his arms. When you begin to live from that identity, the one rooted in being chosen, sung over, and delighted in, you stop striving and start resting. And in that rest, your true self begins to breathe again. This isn't just a comforting verse. It's a revolution of identity, one that whispers, you are already enough. It's a quiet ache, the way we reach for control, like it's the only thing holding our lives together. You might not call it striving. Maybe you just think of it as being responsible, productive, and prepared. But beneath the surface, there's a hum that never stops, the drive to fix everything, to prove your value, to make sure no one sees you fall apart. You plan because unpredictability scares you. You perform because approval soothes the anxiety. You keep moving because stopping might let the truth catch up to you. We don't just want things to be okay. We want to be the reason they stay okay. And somewhere in that pressure, our striving turns into surviving. We run on adrenaline, coping mechanisms, and half-said prayers. We smile when we're tired. We say, I'm fine when we're anything but. We build a life on doing, and then wonder why we feel so disconnected from being. So take a breath right now, just one, and ask your soul a question. It may have been avoiding, what am I carrying that God never asked me to hold? Maybe it's the expectation to keep everyone happy. Maybe it's the shame of your past, the pressure to succeed, the fear of disappointing others. Maybe it's the burden of being the strong one. Maybe it's the illusion that your worth is tied to your wins. Now write it down, seriously, on paper, on your phone, wherever it feels real. Name the weight. Confess it not as failure, but as fatigue. God doesn't shame you for carrying it. He simply invites you to lay it down. Because here's the truth. The weight you're under may not be yours to bear. And peace isn't found in managing it better. Peace is found in surrendering it completely. What if today you didn't power through? What if you paused, named the burden, and chose to trade it in? Not for answers, but for rest. Not for perfection, but for peace. God isn't asking you to handle more. He's asking you to trust him with what's already too much. Stillness has often been misunderstood. To the hurried mind, it looks like inaction. To the anxious heart, it feels like avoidance. But in the kingdom of God, stillness is not weakness. It's not laziness or apathy. It is a radical act of courageous trust. It is the sacred decision to stop reaching, stop explaining, stop hustling, and simply rest in the truth that God is enough, even when we are not. Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. His peace is not like the world's peace. It doesn't require circumstances to align or feelings to cooperate. It's not the result of finally checking off every box on our list or getting everyone else to approve. It is a gift, freely given, but only received when we stop grasping for control. Maybe peace isn't a place you arrive at after you get everything together. Maybe it's a presence. You yield to a spirit that moves in quietly when you stop fighting the noise. You don't earn peace by achieving it. You welcome peace by making space for it. You create that space when you pause and say, God, I trust you more than I trust my fear. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of surrender. It is the steady heart that says, even if I don't have the answers, I know the one who does. It's what happens when you stop striving and let grace hold the pieces. It's when you let God take the seat at the center, not as a backup plan, but as your anchor. In this noisy world, stillness is a declaration of faith. It's a quiet rebellion against chaos. It says, I will not be owned by anxiety. I will not be rushed by pressure. I will not be driven by fear. When you choose stillness, you choose to believe that God is at work, even in the silence, especially in the silence, and that belief changes everything. What if peace isn't something you chase, but something you choose? Not at the end of the day, when you're too tired to think, but right at the beginning, before the world can rush in and tell you who to be. Imagine waking up tomorrow and giving the first 3 minutes of your day, not to a to-do list, but to a soul reset. No pressure, no striving, just presence. Before you reach for your phone, before your feet hit the floor, let the morning be sacred. Sit still for a moment. Breathe. Let it be deep and unforced. Feel your shoulders drop. Let the breath remind you that you are alive, and that is already enough. Then whisper this truth aloud. I am not behind. I am being held. Not because you've earned peace, but because God offers it. Not because you feel strong, but because His strength covers your weakness. Let those words become more than an affirmation. Let them be your agreement with heaven. Now take one small action to anchor this practice in your routine. Set a daily alarm or reminder on your phone. Call it, let God carry it. When it goes off each morning, let it pull you back to the quiet, back to the one who holds it all together. This isn't about adding another spiritual checkbox to your schedule. It's about starting your day from a different place, from rest, not rush, from trust, not tension, from being, not proving you have the power to set the tone of your day before the noise even begins. And maybe that simple rhythm, 3 minutes of stillness, a whispered declaration, and a reminder that God is in control, becomes the most powerful reset your soul didn't know it needed. Let it be small. Let it be sacred. Let it be your new way of saying, this day is not mine to carry alone. Her name was Lauren, and for years she was the one everyone leaned on, the dependable one, the high achiever, the fixer. From the outside, it looked like she had mastered the balancing act: full-time job, volunteer work, raising 2 kids, hosting a small group, checking in on friends. Her calendar was full, her inbox even fuller, and she wore her exhaustion like a badge of honor. This is just a season, she told herself. Except the season never ended. Then came the breaking point. It wasn't dramatic, just a Wednesday morning. She was sitting in traffic late again, sipping lukewarm coffee, when the tears came without warning. Not the kind she could blink away, the kind that broke through her armor. She pulled over, hands shaking, heart pounding, and for the first time in years, she said it out loud. God, I can't do this anymore. That whispered surrender marked the beginning of everything new. She didn't quit her job. She didn't move to a mountaintop, but she began to do something far more radical. She stopped pretending she had to hold it all together. She learned to sit quietly in the morning without a plan. She stopped apologizing for needing rest. She started saying no. And as she did, something inside her began to heal. The rest didn't make her less useful. It made her more whole. It gave her the clarity to see what mattered and the courage to let go of what didn't. She discovered that God had never been asking for her performance. He had only been waiting for her presence. Now, when she tells her story, Lauren doesn't talk about burnout as the end. She talks about it as the rescue. The moment's surrender became sacred. The day's stillness became strength. And the deep, quiet truth that saved her life, she was never meant to carry it all. Maybe your story is different. But if you're tired, if you're on the edge, if you're holding everything together with invisible threads, consider this your invitation too. Not to quit, but to exhale, to pause, and maybe to let rest begin the healing you didn't know you needed. God, before the noise of the world reaches me, before the messages and the meetings and the demands begin, I come to you empty-handed. No list of accomplishments, no perfect prayer, just my real self, tired, stretched, still learning how to trust. Released the pressure, was up feeling, the pressure to perform, to please, to prove that I'm capable. Strong, worthy, I release the need to manage outcomes, to control what isn't mine to carry. I surrender the invisible weight I've been holding in my chest. You never asked me to do it all. You never asked me to have it all figured out. You asked me to abide. So I breathe deep, not because everything is calm, but because I choose to rest in you anyway. Let my surrender speak louder than my striving today. Let the peace you offer fill the cracks where fear once lived. Remind me that I am not alone in this, that you go before me and behind me, and you stand with me in the middle of it all, Lord. I trust you with what I cannot control, with the uncertainty ahead, with the emotions I haven't sorted, with the outcomes I'm tempted to manipulate. I trust you to be God faithful, near and fully aware of what I need before I even ask. I confess I've been relying on my own strength, but today I choose your strength instead. I choose stillness over panic, trust over tension, grace over grind. Let my life today not be measured by how much I get done, but by how deeply I stay connected to you. Whisper to me when I rush, slow me down when I try to prove, hold me steady when I'm tempted to run. Thank you for your love that isn't earned. Thank you your presence is always available. Thank you that even in my weakness you are my peace. This morning, I don't bring perfection. I bring permission. Permission for you to take the lead, to carry what I can't, and to remind me again, I was never meant to do this alone. Amen. Take a moment and be honest with yourself, beneath the surface, behind the schedule, and smiles. What are you still holding? What are the things you tuck away behind "I'm fine" and "I've got it handled"? Maybe it's a decision you can't seem to make, a fear that keeps showing up at night, a relationship that's draining more than it gives, or maybe it's just the relentless pressure to be okay all the time, even when you're not. Where do you feel heavy today? Not just tired, but burdened emotionally, mentally, spiritually. What would it look like to pause and truly believe that God is already working in those places, that He's not waiting for you to fix it all before He steps in, but that He's been gently holding the edges this whole time? Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is admit, this is too much for me, and that's where God meets you. Use this moment as a personal checkpoint. Write it out, not for perfection, but for clarity. What's one thing you've been silently carrying that you need to bring into the light? What if naming it is the first step to releasing it? And once you do, once you breathe that truth into the open, consider passing that freedom along. Share this with someone who feels like they're on the edge, someone whose shoulders slump a little lower, who hides their weariness well. Let them know they're not alone, that it's okay to be tired. That rest is not a weakness, but an invitation. The truth is, none of us were meant to carry the weight of the world, even though we try. So check in with your soul. Ask yourself gently, what am I still holding that God is waiting for me to release? And then let Him take it, not in pieces, not in theory, but fully, boldly, trustingly. Today could be the beginning of that surrender. Take a deep breath. Let it anchor you in this moment right here, right now. Before the day unfolds, before expectations press in, before distractions crowd your thoughts, let your soul hear something truer than the noise. You don't have to rush to matter. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't need to be more impressive, more productive, or more put together. You just need to remember who you are and whose you are. This is your declaration, not whispered with uncertainty, but spoken with quiet strength. I don't have to rush. I don't have to prove I am loved. I am held. I will just exist and let God do the rest. Let those words settle like a foundation beneath your feet. Let them interrupt the voice in your head that says you're already behind. Let them silence the pressure to keep up, to outperform, to be endlessly strong. You are not behind. You are not too much. You are not a disappointment. You are exactly where grace can reach you. Every morning comes with a decision. Will I live from rest or from rush? Will I move through the day with the weight of the world on my shoulders? Or will I let God carry what I was never meant to hold? This manifesto is more than a mantra. It's a reset for your identity, a reminder that peace is your birthright in Christ, that stillness is your strength, that God moves most powerfully when we move least fearfully. Speak it again as many times as you need. Whisper it when anxiety rises. Shout it when you feel overwhelmed. Breathe it in when you forget who you are. I don't have to rush. I don't have to prove I am loved. I am held. I will just exist and let God do the rest. Let that be the rhythm of your morning. Let that be your brave beginning. Jenna had always been the go-to person for her team at work, for her kids at home, for the church events she couldn't say no to. She told herself she was being faithful, responsible, even Christ-like. But what she didn't realize was that in carrying everyone else's weight, she had slowly begun to disappear beneath it. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She had just finished back-to-back Zoom calls and was rushing to pick up groceries before school pickup. Her phone buzzed. Another request, another need. And as she reached to respond, she suddenly couldn't breathe. The parking lot seemed to tilt. Her hands trembled. She dropped her phone. Her chest tightened with panic. She couldn't explain. It wasn't a heart attack. The doctors called it anxiety-induced exhaustion. Her body had finally said what her heart had been whispering for months. You can't keep living like this. That night, wrapped in a hospital blanket under fluorescent lights, Jenna did something she hadn't done in years. She cried, not the kind of tears that come from frustration or fatigue, but the kind that spring up when the soul realizes it's been neglected. She whispered into the silence, God, I don't know how to stop, but I need you to help me. No thunder, no visions, just stillness. But in that stillness, something broke and something else began to heal. When Jenna returned home, nothing on the outside changed right away. The job was still demanding. The kids still needed her. The inbox kept filling, but something inside her was different. She began to set boundaries, not out of rebellion, but out of reverence. She started her mornings not with an agenda, but with silence. She turned off notifications and turned on worship music. She walked more slowly, breathed deeper, and for the first time, she began to believe that maybe she didn't have to do it all to be enough. One afternoon, she scribbled a line in her journal. Almost broke, trying to prove I was okay, but God met me when I finally said I wasn't. That line became her prayer, her truth, and eventually her story. A story not of burnout, but of breakthrough, of surrender, of sacred pause. Because in that moment when everything stopped, she didn't fall apart. She fell into grace. Jenna's story is a quiet reminder that even strength has limits. And sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is admit we're not okay. She lived so long in survival mode, confusing exhaustion with faithfulness, until her body and her spirit could no longer keep up the pace. But in the silence of that surrender, she discovered something sacred. She was never meant to carry it all. Healing didn't come through trying harder, but through letting go. Her life didn't unravel. It was rebuilt from a deeper place of trust, presence, and peace. If you're living like Jenna once did, pushing through, pretending, pleasing, pause. Don't wait for your breakdown to become your breakthrough. Let today be the moment you choose a different rhythm. Say no when your soul needs space. Sit still when the world screams for speed. Remember, you are not falling behind. You are being invited into rest. And that is where your healing begins. The lesson woven through this story is one that many of us desperately need, but rarely allow ourselves to learn. You are not meant to be the hero of every moment. Life will demand more than you can give, and if you're not careful, you'll spend years trying to meet expectations that God never placed on you. Jenna's journey teaches us that real strength is found not in pushing harder, but in learning when to pause, when to breathe, and when to surrender. We live in a culture that equates worth with output and rest with weakness, but the truth of God offers a different way. Rest is not a reward, it's a rhythm we were created to live in. Stillness is not laziness, it's where we make room for divine guidance and healing. So let Jenna's story be a mirror. Ask yourself, what am I carrying that's not mine to hold? And then, take the brave next step, not by doing more, but by trusting more. Let God be God. Let grace do the heavy lifting. And let your life begin to unfold, not from pressure, but from peace.